The woman in red floated above the grave, her mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear, but I felt it in my bones. The earth cracked beneath me. I tried to run, but dozens of pale hands burst from the ground, grabbing my legs. I screamed, and she smiled. My name is Daniel Woods. I moved to rural Pennsylvania last spring. After a tough divorce and losing my job in Philly, I needed a fresh start. Cheap land, quiet forest roads, no neighbors for miles. That sounded like peace to me. I found an old lot online for dirt cheap. 6 acres, right outside a forgotten town called East Willard. Locals said no one had lived on the land for nearly 40 years. I didn't ask why. I didn't care. I just wanted space to build my cabin and breathe again. The first week was fine. I set up my camper and started clearing brush. The place was dead silent, too silent. Birds didn't sing. The wind always blew through the trees like it was whispering secrets. On the 3rd day, I started digging to lay the foundation. That's when I found the coffin. My shovel hit something solid. I brushed away the dirt and saw old wood, but it wasn't rotten, it wasn't even moldy. It looked preserved. Like it had been sealed yesterday, not decades ago. I stood there, heart racing. I called the county sheriff's office, but they said old graves on private land weren't their problem, unless I wanted to file a report. So I opened the damn thing. Biggest mistake of my life. Inside was a skeleton of a woman in a red wedding dress. Her jaw was open like she died screaming. Her bony hands were curled tight into fists. The worst part? The inside of the lid had deep scratch marks. She'd been buried alive. I nearly puked. My fingers went numb. The air around me felt ice cold. I slammed the lid shut and backed away, heart slamming against my chest. I told myself, it's just an old grave. Someone made a mistake. It's not your problem. But then the nights got weird. On the first night, I woke at 2:13 a.m. to the sound of knocking. Slow, dull thuds, like someone was tapping wood from underground. It was rhythmic. Knock, knock, knock. I thought maybe it was animals. I stepped outside with my flashlight. No raccoons, no wind, just silence. Then the knocking stopped. I turned to go back in, and I heard a whisper, a woman's voice right behind my ear. Don't leave me here. I spun around, no one. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I found my hammer in the dirt, right on top of the grave. It had been inside my camper when I went to bed. I was starting to freak out, so I went into town. There's a tiny diner in East Willard called Millie's Place. I asked the owner, an old guy with a shaky voice named Howard, if he knew anything about the land. He froze when I told him where I was staying. That place, he said slowly, was once the property of the Hargrove family. You ever hear about their daughter? I shook my head. He nodded. Didn't think so. They kept it quiet. Her name was Margaret. She was going to get married in 1984. Big wedding. Her fiancé ditched her at the altar. Rumor was he ran off with her best friend. Howard paused, looking uncomfortable. She went unstable. Her parents said she overdosed, but folks around here say something different. They say she was still breathing when they put her in the ground. Her daddy couldn't handle the shame, buried her himself, didn't even call a doctor. My skin turned to ice. She was wearing her wedding dress when he did it, he added. A red one, said it matched her pain. I asked him, where is she buried? He looked at me with tired eyes. You already know, son. I left the diner in a daze. Back at my lot, things got worse. That night I locked every door and window. Still, I woke to the sound of footsteps, not outside, inside my camper. Slow steps, one after the other, bare feet on vinyl floor. I held my breath, too scared to move. I felt the air get cold. Then I heard soft breathing right above me. I opened my eyes and saw a shadow on the ceiling. A tall figure with long hair. She was just standing there. I screamed, turned on every light. Nothing. But on the floor by the door were wet footprints, small, barefoot, muddy, like someone had walked straight out of the earth. I ran outside. The grave was open. The coffin lid lay on the ground, cracked. Dirt had been pushed from the inside. And next to the grave was a bouquet of dead red roses, tied with a torn wedding ribbon. The next morning, I tried to pack and leave. My truck wouldn't start. Battery was dead. The engine smelled like rotting flowers. That night, I saw her again. This time, she stood at the tree line. A woman in a red dress, her face hidden by a black veil. Her hands were bloody, nails broken. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. I couldn't look away. I whispered, "I'm sorry." She tilted her head. And then she vanished into the dark. I woke up the next morning on the floor. I don't remember falling asleep. My flashlight was still on, my boots were muddy, and the inside of my camper smelled like mold and smoke. My phone was dead again. No signal. The charger didn't work. My truck battery, still dead. I was stuck. I packed what I could and started walking toward town. It was a 2-hour walk, but I didn't care. I needed to get far away from that grave, from her. But I didn't make it even 10 minutes. The woods around my land twisted strangely. The trail I always used was gone. Just trees, no path. It was like the forest was closing in, guiding me back. I turned around, and my camper was right behind me. I hadn't moved at all. That night, the scratching began. It started small, just tiny taps on the walls like mice, but it grew louder, sharper, like nails on metal. Long drags, angry claws. Then came the screaming, muffled at first, like it came from under the floor, but it rose fast, like someone buried alive, screaming into the earth, into my walls. "Let me out!" I slammed my fists against the wall. "Shut up!" But she didn't. She screamed louder. And then it stopped. Dead silence. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. I collapsed into the bed. Then I heard breathing, right behind my ear. I turned fast. No one, but a strand of black hair was on my pillow. The next day, my dog Max went missing. I found his leash still hooked to the tree where I tied him. But the chain was broken, not chewed, snapped clean in half, like something pulled him away with impossible force. I called for him for hours. Nothing answered, except the wind. That night I couldn't sleep. I heard soft crying inside the walls, then laughing, then the crying again. It was driving me crazy. I searched every inch of the camper. Nothing. No animals, no speakers, nothing. Then I found the mirror on the cabinet had fogged up. There was a message written on it. "Till death do us part, Thomas." I stepped back in shock. Who was Thomas? That wasn't my name. I drove into town in a borrowed truck the next day. I needed answers. At the local library, I found the archived newspapers from the 80s. After some digging, I found the article. Bride found dead after wedding day betrayal. Margaret Hargrove, 23. Fiancé never showed. Alleged suicide by overdose. Family buried her on private land. But there was more. Whispers from neighbors in old letters said Margaret had accused her fiancé, Thomas Bell, of cheating and hurting her before the wedding. She tried to cancel it, but her father forced it to happen anyway. On the day of the wedding, she showed up in a red dress, a sign of shame and revenge. Thomas never came. Her father reportedly beat her that night, and the next morning she was gone, buried by her father that same day. No autopsy, no funeral, just buried like garbage. I sat there frozen, reading those words over and over. Red wedding dress, buried alive, betrayed, abused, forgotten. She wasn't just sad. She was furious. She wasn't crying in my walls. She was screaming for justice. And now she thought I was him. Thomas. That night I heard her say it. "Thomas, you lied to me." I screamed back, "I'm not him." The lights flickered. She whispered again. "You left me. You buried me." I slammed the door, locked every bolt, every latch. But the air grew heavy. My breath turned white. She was in the camper with me. I turned around slowly. There she was, the woman in red, standing in the corner, veil covering her face. Her hands were filthy, her dress torn, her fingers black and bloody. I froze. She tilted her head. "Why didn't you love me?" I tried to move, but I couldn't. She took a step forward. "You left me in the dark." I reached for the door, pulled hard. It wouldn't open. She was getting closer. I begged, "Please, I'm not him." She whispered, "Then why are you still here?" And then I woke up outside, lying in the cold mud, alone. The camper door wide open. Inside, every surface was scratched. Words carved over and over again. till death, till death. I hadn't slept in 3 days. The woman in red no longer came just at night. I saw her reflection in windows. I heard her voice whispering in the leaves. I even saw her once in broad daylight, standing by the mailbox of a family with 3 kids, watching me like I was next. She followed me to the diner. She sat in the back seat of every truck I borrowed. When I looked in the mirror sometimes, it wasn't my face anymore. It was his, Thomas. Same brown hair, same deep-set eyes. That's when I knew I had to end this. She wanted justice, or revenge, or both. So I went back to the grave. I brought gasoline, matches, and a crowbar. The coffin was still broken, but the bones inside had been moved, arranged carefully, almost lovingly, as if someone had tucked her in. I poured the gasoline. My hands trembled. I lit the match. The flame roared, but it didn't stay on the wood. It climbed up my arm. I screamed as fire raced across my skin like it was alive. I dropped to the dirt and rolled. It finally died out, but my arm was blistered and black. Then I heard her voice, soft, right behind my head. "You should have just married me." I crawled away. That night my eyes turned red. My hair started falling out in the shower, and my skin began to peel like a corpse. I looked in the mirror and saw Margaret standing behind me, smiling. "You look just like him now," she whispered. I drove to the edge of town, desperate to leave East Willard behind. I didn't care if I had to live in a cave as long as it was far from here, but the road never ended. No matter how far I drove, the same dead trees lined the road, the same broken sign, now leaving East Willard. I drove for hours and ended up right back at the grave. I got out of the truck and fell to my knees. "Please," I whispered, "I didn't hurt you. I'm not him." The wind grew strong. Leaves swirled around me. A voice replied from nowhere and everywhere, "But you opened my grave." And then I wasn't in the woods anymore. I was underground, buried, trapped, my chest crushed by dirt. No air, no light, just wood, just silence. I screamed. Then I was back at the grave, breathing. But my hands were shaking, dirt was in my mouth, blood in my fingernails, like I'd really been clawing my way out. I knew what she wanted now. She didn't want forgiveness. She wanted someone else to suffer, just like her, and I was all she had. I collapsed into the grass and sobbed. "I'm sorry." The wind whispered, "So am I." Suddenly I couldn't move. My arms locked at my sides. My body went stiff, like I was being held down by invisible hands. I fought, screamed, but the earth began to move around me, shovel by shovel. Even though no one was there, I was being buried alive. The dirt hit my face, my mouth, my chest. I couldn't breathe. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was her, standing above me, in her red dress, smiling. Her veil blew away in the wind. Her face wasn't rotted. It was peaceful now, and her eyes were mine. 1 month later, a for sale sign went up at the property. Cheap land, good soil, quiet woods. No one knows what happened to Daniel Woods. Some say he ran off to the mountains. Others say he went crazy and disappeared. The only thing left behind was a single line carved deep into the front door of his camper. She never rests, she only waits. The woman in red still walks those woods, and when she finds another broken soul, she'll dig again. The end.